Welcome to another episode of Dad Can We Talk? I am your host, Anthony Ray, and this is episode 109. We are continuing to push, man. I'm so excited because when I hit that episode 100, I know a lot of people probably thought, oh, that's it. He ain't got no more. But what I always said from the beginning, man, I have dad after dad after dad after dad, so we're going to continue to tell the story of fatherhood from our own perspective. And man, I am excited about today. But before we get into that, I need for y'all to do one thing. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe at Dad Can We Talk. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at Dad Can We Talk, Facebook, Dad Can We Talk, or you can just look up my name at Anthony Richard Ray. You can go to the website at www.dadcanwetalk.com and you will find everything there, the YouTube channel, the audio podcast, everything concerning Dad Can We Talk is on the website also. Or if you don't feel like doing any of that, go to Google and type in Dad Can We Talk. That's simple, easy. So for all my supporters out there, man, I appreciate y'all for continuing to support me. And I just need y'all to do that one thing. Go and help the channel grow. Easy. But without further ado, man, I'm y'all know we came here for business today. We're gonna talk some family and fatherhood. And my guest today is a writer, producer, and director whose work includes ER, Criminal Minds, The Game, Power, Stomp the Yard, Think Like a Man, Flash, and All American. And that's just a few. That's just a few of the things that I can name, man. So I guess it's simple to say, he's a big dog in the game. That's what I'm gonna say. But and he's also a FAMU graduate. So shout out to the Rattlers, man.
One time.
But yeah.
One time.
But there he won the Bernard Hendricks Student Leadership Award, which is the highest honor bestowed on a student. And he also had the Meritorious Achievement Award, the highest honor bestowed on an alumnus. So, like I said, this guy's a big dog. He shouldn't need an introduction, but we're going to give him one, so that's how we going to do it today. So, without further ado, y'all, welcome to the show. My man, Rob Hardy. How you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. Ready to get into it.
That's what's up, man. Hey, I appreciate the intro. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you for spending a little time with me today, man. So, on Dad Can We Talk, we always have the first question. We're going to keep it the same today. So, the first question I got for you today is, what was your relationship like with your dad?
Man, my relationship with my dad was a little complicated. He was a good dude, and when my parents lived together, he was a guy that just worked a lot, right? And he was gone, but I always knew he loved me, but he just wasn't around a whole lot like my mom was. And then they divorced when I was in elementary school, and I moved away. I moved to Philly. So I would mostly only see my dad during the summer times. And he still worked a lot, but because I was gone so much, he tried to overcompensate by cramming a whole lot of responsibilities and lessons and being extra tough on me because he only had me for a couple months. So we figured, okay, I'm going to make you be the most responsible or the most thorough or the toughest or whatever guy for this little time I have you. So that didn't really, let me get that close to him. It just kind of made it feel like, do this until I got older, and I kind of rebelled against that a little bit. So that was kind of what our relationship was like. And then when I got older and he got sick, we got a chance to get closer together years later. But always a good dude. I just, we ain't really understand each other that much.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Man. Wow. Yeah, that's something that's big. When I think about relationships like that, I hear that a lot, when people grow up with those not what I wouldn't say strained, but almost like in a strained relationship with their dads, and near the end of their life, they start to really grow that relationship. And that's something that always gets me, because I'm like, I really want to be able to do that right now. My kids are 10, 7, and 6.
Mm.
So I'm like, I just that's one thing I fear is, for them to get older and I wait until that time, which is still is good, because you can allow them to go with closure, which is always a good thing. So yeah, man, that's a very important thing that I focus on for myself. But how would you say that relationship that you had with your dad translates over into the way that you parent your own children?
You know, so for me, the relationship with my dad shows itself in my relationship with my boys in a couple ways. On one end, like my dad, I work a lot and I got these high expectations of my boys, and at times I could be tough on them, like my dad was for me. But on the
Mhm.
flip side, I work hard to try to be there and be present with them. Try to go to as many games and practices and all of that as I can. And I'm a lot more expressive with my boys than my dad was with me. And he was a loving dude. He wasn't raised to say stuff like, hey, good job. Hey, I'm proud of you. That wasn't his vibe, because guys from his generation didn't really do that. So
Mhm.
I try to do that with my boys and let them know, you know, how much I love them, what I feel. And if I gotta discipline them, then I always try to do that with the lesson in mind. So I'm not just going at their head. I'm saying, hey, listen, here's why I'm doing this. Here's what you could do better. Here's what you did right, but here's what we expect from you. So
Mhm.
that way they always know the why and not just, what I did wrong. So I try to make that pivot with them.
Love that, man. Love that. Hey, fathers, if you're listening, that's free game right there. Free game. But so you grew up in Philly, man. I want you to talk about that. I'm always interested to hear stories from guys that grew up in, that those different eras like the 70s and the 80s. So around those times, I know you spent a lot of your teenage years probably in the 80s, if I'm right, if I'm not wrong. But so talk about that, growing up in Philly in the 70s and 80s, and how things were like just growing up in that time.
So it was like I had two different worlds. I had Nashville where my dad lived. That was like, middle class, two parents and me, little house and whatnot. And that was cool and stable. And I had some good friends. Then I moved to Philly.
Mm,
And so Philly was big city. It was fast, it was aggressive, and we was what I would call hood adjacent.
yeah.
So that meant that it was like a block by block scenario, and you just got to learn fast how to move there. And at that time, you take the bus everywhere. I mean, we had a car, but all the kids took the bus to school. And I don't mean like the yellow bus. I'm talking about like the city bus. So you
Yeah.
got like kindergartners, first graders, second graders, we all on the bus, transfer passes, whatever. And if you little, you just stayed in the front because the big boys was going to be in the back, and that ain't where you wanted to be at. And so, you get there, and I was just a new boy. And it was just a whole new different world of where all of a sudden everybody was about talking fast. Did you have the right clothes? What's up with the music? The girls vibe different. And and it was just tough. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta watch where you at. You know what I'm saying? So that way you don't get jammed up. But like anything, you adapt quick as a kid and you kind of figure out the vibes of what it is. And then when I would go to Nashville just felt a lot slower. And this was probably like in the early 80s. I was born in the 70s, but I'm a 80s kid. And it
Mhm.
was cool because at that time in Philly, rap music was just getting started and it was new. So that was a big new thing. Atari was a big new thing back then. And just like it's my first time, I said, caring about stuff like clothes. So I'm like coming into my own during that time in the big city.
Yeah.
And I had cousins in New York, so I would go up there. So it was just a whole different kind of energy, man. It was love. It was love.
Love that, man. Love that, man. And I grew up, I would say I'm a 90s kid, born 89, but I was a 90s kid. And I was a big Allen Iverson fan. So I always wanted to visit Philly, man. Just watching AI, that was like my thing. So back then, I'm bald head now, but back then I had my braids in my head.
Ah.
Yeah. But so with Philly, it's interesting. You talked about that hip hop era and stuff. I know they were just, starting around that time. And I know up north, man, I know I mean, just watching documentaries and stuff and just seeing, like that city life is way different. I mean, even Nashville, that's country. I think of Tennessee, all the trees and all that stuff. But what was it like growing up in that era in the 80s once the crack era really started to pop off and hip hop is coming in? Did you see a transition, or was that something that you were even aware of at that time, growing up in that time?
The transition I saw wasn't so much like people using. I think that happened all over the city, but again, that it was a little bit more focused in what exact block you were and so on and so forth. What I did notice though was more people were getting money. I saw that. I did have at least a couple friends that were in that game. One friend of mine from 8th grade wound up eventually dropping out, and then he was a corner boy. So I definitely would see that, and I think that for me it was more so, okay, that was happening, but we were just kind of like kids running around within that, and for us it was more about the hustle of trying to figure out how to get cool clothes so we could talk to the girl and we could get to the party and we could do this. So we were kind of like moving in and around that. I didn't really see the using part of that, but I definitely saw the people getting money part of it, and you definitely knew some of the crews that did that. Because they were large, so you could say, oh, that's the so and so, and so you just kind of like peeped who was doing what. But they all had a different look. And then if you went to New York, same kind of thing, just different style and different swag.
Mm. And I like to ask that question because having what we have now in 2023 with movies and documentaries, we can look back and we see all of these things. And I always wonder, if in that time people really saw what the war on drugs did to the Black family. Like if it was something that was even like thought of like while it was going on. I know we can look back, 20 and 30 years back now and we can see what it did, but I'm always interested to know like how the people who were really living in that time, if they were able to see, you know, I always call it, that's like a government thing that really went on to really destroy our community.
Yeah, I think that all that was definitely there. You know what I'm saying? I think that you would see stuff like that in different levels. You know what I'm saying? I think, a lot more what I saw where I was again, you had certain blocks where that was more heavy. And we were just always taught you're not going to be hanging on that block. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a whole lot that comes with that. So you knew that was there, but it wasn't like that was my neighbor. But I did know folks that definitely was in that life. As a matter of fact, one of my friends that was in that life, isn't here anymore. You know what I'm saying? So that part definitely happened. I definitely feel like you had the rise in people getting money, but the alternative to that at the same time was, hip hop as like an expression. So you had a lot of people that talked about that on all coasts. And I think coming up in middle school and high school, that's kind of where I was giving my attention to, was whether it was like the Public Enemies of the world, the KRS-Ones, Boogie Down Productions of the world, or on the West Coast, NWAs of the world. And back then, because it wasn't, the internet wasn't, out and big, the only connection that you had with stuff like that was to go see a different city. So you would see that what was happening in New York was different from Philly, was different from Nashville or Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? So everybody had their own vibe. And then when shows like Rap City or Yo MTV Raps came out, you got a chance to see, oh, okay, here's what they're doing in DC or St. Louis or New Orleans. And that was like your way into seeing, wow, the same stuff is happening there. It just may be a little bit different over here because of how they talk or because of the clothes that they're wearing. But the energy is still the same.
Man, that makes so much sense now that you say that, because I'm always looking at things in a, like a social media from that lens. And I almost forget at times, even when I was growing up in the early 2000s, it wasn't all of this, like where you can see things, really within a split second. You go to Instagram and things are updating constantly. But yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense. So you really like, what are your thoughts on how the media has changed over the years, or even helped to portray the negative images of Black fathers? Because one of my big things with starting this podcast was I feel like Black dads for decades, for years, we have this negative stigma. When people think about Black fatherhood, the first thing we think of is absent,
Yep.
deadbeat. It's always something negative attached to the Black dad. And so I was like, from where I stand, I don't really see that as much. With guys I'm growing up with, all of my friends were very active dads, my brothers, my cousins. I do understand, I didn't have the most active dad growing up. So I do understand it. But I'm like, why do we always, everywhere you look on the TV and on the movies, what what part do you think media played in the portrayal of the negative stereotypes of Black dads?
I think the media plays a huge portrayal in that, because you only report in half the story. You only report in situations to where Black people in general do stuff that's bad. When we do amazing, outstanding stuff, it doesn't really get reported like that. When you're the hero, it doesn't really get reported like that. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm just saying it doesn't get the same level of attention that it does when there's the stick-up kid or there's the shooting, and the narrative seems to always be the same, something that's violent related or, absent dad or whatever. And all that stuff is part of our community, no doubt. It's not all the stories. I think that I feel like, you had a situation. So even when you look at like a lot of, projects, right? And you're talking about like a lot of government housing. Sometimes they would have policies that would state that there can't be a man living in the unit for you to stay here and get this government assistance. So stuff like that tells you that there's a systematic, thing at play to keep everybody separated. And if everybody's separated, then it's harder for those kids, young boys especially, to get the proper role model of somebody in the house that sets ground rules of conduct and says, yo, you can't do that. Yo, that's not right. And I think the two go hand in hand. If I got somebody that's a young kid that's relying on me every day, that's looking at me as the leader, that's expecting me to come and represent, more times than not every time, but more times than not, I'm going to do what I can to represent, to make sure that I can be the role model. And then vice versa. I give them something to look up to, and then it makes the neighborhoods better. You take that person out, you remove the factories and the workplaces from our neighborhoods. You have these crazy, policies that get people locked up, and you remove that element, then you just have like guys looking for direction. And so, even if you look through our history, I think that, certain people, when they have dads, they tend to do better. They tend to have better mental health, all statistics. They tend to do better in school, have better behavior. Far less of them are in jail. Not saying that can't, that's, that if you have two parents, you don't make bad decisions, or that if you're from a single parent, that you can't make it work. You absolutely can. I'm just saying that having the presence of a father or having the presence of strong men that could be surrogate fathers, the right coach, the uncle, the mentor, or whatever, allows people to have more stability and more role models to be able to do the right thing. And then, you know, to take care of their own families.
No, that's real. That's real. And you know, I was watching BMF, and one thing that really stood out to me was, now one thing I will say is, you know, when you look at their family, you look at how they had a mom and a dad there, and they still did what they did, you know. And when I was watching that, I was like, one of the biggest things that stood out to me, like, wow, you know, they did have a mom and dad there. But statistics does show that, you know, with an active dad, most other times, you know, the kid would be better in almost every area, education, mental, emotional, social, everything. Just having that active dad is such a huge thing. And I think people overlook it at times. It's like, oh, well, a mom can help you do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm a huge believer in we need mom and dad. So it's never to throw shade on moms and say that moms aren't important. Like, of course, moms are definitely needed, but the dad is also. And that's just a big message that I think people got to understand.
I will offer this, right? And I absolutely adored my mom and still do. And she definitely did her best for me. But there were certain things I needed from my dad, you know, and I even see it, you know, with my own wife. I think that I'm just being general. It's not like this for everybody, but in a lot of cases, I think moms are geared towards wanting to protect their kids from the world. I want to protect my kid from the bully, from the dog, from getting mistreated, from getting locked up. I want to protect them. And so they should, because they're nurturers. Again, I'm just being general, not saying that it's always like this. Dads, in general, are different because dads are typically saying, I know the world's going to do all that stuff. So how do I prepare my kid to handle that? The best way that I can prepare my kid to handle that means that that kid can protect him or herself. So that's kind of the difference. It's saying, I'm going to protect my kid from the bully, or I'm going to teach my kid how to fight the bully. Not saying that mom can't do that, because moms do that all the time. And I had an aunt that was definitely about that life. But I'm saying more of the dads that I know, I call them my cool dads and my dope dads, however your vibe is. It's all about, how do I protect him? How do I get him to be able to stand up for himself, to get him to ride for himself? Do I got to teach him how to box? Got to teach him how to fish? Got to teach him how to do this? How does he move? How does he code switch? All those things that teach him how to handle situations when they come to him might just be a different approach. And so, again, moms can provide that, but sometimes, especially if I'm a boy, I need that coming from a man personally, because it's going to come different, because he experiences that different from society, from the neighborhood. So that's going to make it easier for me to relate to. And then for girls, they get a chance to get that love from a man. Again, I'm assuming that it's healthy, then a man can show you, here's what it feels like to be protected. Here's the game to look out for when guys may try to get at you. Those are all certain things that, again, can come from mom, but it's different if he's a guy, the same type of person that might be trying to do that to you.
Man, that ain't nothing but the truth right there. Do you ever feel the obligation in your work to, how do I want to say, not necessarily repair all of what's been portrayed for throughout the years, but do you have an obligation to put out those positive images of the Black male, the Black father, the Black family?
I think so, when I can. Like, if I'm developing a project, I want to try to have that. But if it's for somebody else, I got to figure out what the story is that they're trying to tell. But my responsibility is, whatever the story is, to try to make it feel authentic and to do it with dignity. So if this person is, a drug dealer, or he's robbing somebody, or whatever's happening, then not just look at what's on the page and say what he's doing is bad, but get more into, well, why is he doing it? You know what I'm saying? What is he doing it for? Is he doing it for, he's trying to make this into something? Is he trying to provide for his family? Okay, cool. Then can we show how he loves, his kids that he's doing it for? Can we show how he or she has a dream and what that dream means to him? So all that stuff humanizes them and says, don't just label our folks based upon what they do and what's on the page. See them as full, flawed people like we all are. And we just trying to figure it out, just trying to make it, trying to get love, and trying to live our dream. And I think if you do it like that, then it makes the people more humane, which is who we are as a people.
Man, you just said a mouthful right there. And that's one thing that I pay attention to stuff like that when I'm watching films. I hear a lot of people, they talk about, certain films or certain shows, and they say things like, we shouldn't support certain shows because it supports this or it supports that. And whatever the case may be, I'm always looking at things for, like, for instance, again, with the BMF situation, I look at these guys and I look at their life. I look at, the dad, I look at the mom, I look at the little sister. I see all of these things, and I'm just paying attention and understanding, like, okay, I understand why they might think like this. I understand why they might do this, even though I might not even agree with it, but I do understand. And it helps me to understand people right around me, guys right in my community, the next door neighbor, the person living down the street. Really, if you got to really look at things from that perspective. And I don't think it's always glorifying. They say things like, oh, we make movies about violence, and it's always glorifying violence. And I don't think it's always the glorification of violence. I think it's showing real life situations and helping people to understand. So yeah, you made a great point on that.
And we also have other shows that don't deal with that, but the reality is that we got to support that. And if we supported more of that stuff, like the Woman King, where you have like the tribe of African women that go and they're warriors and they fought off the colonizers and all that. If we don't support that, it's harder for us to get more of that. But like on like the BMF situation, like, I think that if in that story, you do have everybody living in the house. But the reality is that if the industry and the factories and all that stuff that was there that gave the dad the job to provide for his family are all gone, and everybody's fighting to just survive and keep the lights on, then it throws the dynamic off. You know what I'm saying? So even though the dad is there, and even though the dad is trying to represent, the situations around threw the dynamics off. So now, unfortunately, the kids may feel the need to, well, I got to go out and do something to make stuff happen, so on and so forth. Now, 20 years ago, when you got the Firestone factory, when you got the GM plants popping, when you got all that stuff going, and I got a job with benefits and I can get my teeth fixed and all of that stuff, then it's easier to keep that dynamic how it should be, But the minute that the basics aren't there, that's when everybody starts doing, what they want to do and start looking at each other sideways. That's human nature. Not saying it's right, but I'm saying that I understand that, but that's not just our people. that's all people in those situations, but that just happens to be more the narrative for us.
Man, that's so real. That's the truth right there. I want you to talk about, how you balance work and family. I know I might not have as many things as you going on, but I know for me, working full time. At one point, I was in school full time, 3 kids, wife, start running a podcast. I got all of these different things going on, and it was rough.
Yeah.
Just in all honesty, it was rough. And at times I just would look up like, bro, how do I get through this? Like, how do I make it to tomorrow? Because it seems like this day right here is going to take me out. This right here is going to be the one. And so I know with all of that stuff, film and work and all of that stuff that you have going on, how do you find the time to take care of you, tend to your children? Then you got a wife and you got to tend to her. How do you balance all that?
Hey man, first of all, props to you just on doing that balance. You know what I'm saying? That's no easy thing to do, and you definitely get like the gold star for that, my man. So listen, I don't know that you ever really get the full on balance, because once you give to these two things, this other thing is going to fall down. So you're always kind of doing this, right? I think it's about picking and choosing different times. And for me, I try to put together a schedule, and it sounds real specific, but that's the only way that I can do it, is to say, okay, here's what's important to me. Here's what I got to do. Here's what I want to do. And let me arrange when I have to do stuff. And let me always try to stick in there something that I want to do. And then let me leave some time open just in case something extra happens that I, popped up with my kids or with my wife or whatever that is. And you always do that balance. But a buddy of mine told me a while ago, he said, hey, Rob, you got to choose. He said, you can be the best director guy ever, but that means you just got to go hard and go get it. But this is going to suffer over here at home. Or maybe you can be a good director guy and have a little bit more time to be home and walk that balance. Mm-hmm. And then somehow in the middle of that, you got to carve out time for yourself. And what I will offer to you is, the way you take care of yourself is you build in some time for you to meditate or read or stretch or work out, whatever you want to do. If you tell your family, hey, what do y'all want to eat? Then for all the suggestions that you give them, make sure it's stuff that you want. So that way, if it's 4 places that we choosing to eat, I know that I want to eat at all 4. So whatever y'all choose, I win. Don't go and ask them what they want. And they say something over here and you're allergic to that. That's crazy. Now you got to go figure it out. But if you give them options, like, yeah, we can do these 4 things, then they feel like they got options. But quietly, you good either way. And then that way you build yourself into all this. So, you got to go to practice? Cool. Hey, I'm going to have my buddy meet me down to practice so we can just sit down for an hour and just talk trash. Or I'm going to get my hustle on during, because I'm going to sit in the car and do notes or do my podcast or do my other thing. So you multitasking, but you doing that for you while you take care of that for them. Oh. So those are ways that you can do, because you make your own mental health and your own, desires a priority. So that way you don't get burned out doing stuff for everybody else.
Man, you just put me out. I'm taking notes right now. That's something that I need, man. I that's probably one of the most difficult parts of fatherhood for me, is balancing, taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Tending to all 3 of my kids, so I have 3 children, and I know that all of them have separate needs.
Yep.
I used to look at it like, I can give them all the same thing. But once I really started looking at the love languages, and I would look at that, as far as my wife is concerned. And then I started looking at the fact that, hold up, my kids are humans too. They have love languages also. And so I really started looking into love languages for children. I'm like, I was blown. I'm like, dang, I never thought about this, because I'm trying to love my son the way I love my oldest daughter, and love my oldest daughter like I love the little baby. Yep. And I'm like, no, they all have their own language, and I have to learn them and learn to love them in a certain way. So really taking that time to love all of them in their way, and also still having my wife in that is a difficult thing. So have you ever looked into that? Have you ever really just thought about, your kids' love languages?
Yeah. Everybody's different, like my older boy is more independent, and he's a little more stubborn, you know what I'm saying, and kind of wants to go do his own thing a little bit. Loves me, but it's still kind of like, yeah. Let me figure this out. Whereas my younger boy is more affectionate. So he want to be like right here and talk to me and show me the stuff all the time. And it's trying to walk that balance for me. And what I've tried to do is give them each different times. And I may say on one day, like, hey, to my younger son, let's go hang out. What you want to do? We can do this, or this. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that I'm cool with all that. And then we'll go do something. And me and the older boy, I'll figure out, what are the things that he likes. And I'll try to go do some of those things with them. And then, I try to give my wife free time to go do her, because I'm going to want the same thing myself. Or as a cheat, what I'll do is there's certain guys that I'm cool with that have sons. So I say, hey, why don't we get our sons together? And then the sons will go do whatever, play the game, be on the basketball court, doing whatever. And then me and the dads can hang out. So I get my me time, they get their time, and then I'll set up a date for the queen. You know what I'm saying? So it's all in how you want to just shuffle the deck to try to get as much done to feed your soul. And to feed your soul, knowing that you had a little bit of time for each of your kids, And one other thing that I tried to do was every New Year's, I tell everybody to make a list of all the stuff that you want to try to do this year. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to do a new sport, if you want to go on a trip, you want to hang out with me more, whatever those things are, you can just think about whatever it is that you want to do. And none of it may ever happen, but at least I saw it. So if I'm getting gifts, doing activities, planning my time, I can try to work some of that stuff in. So by the time we come to the end of that year, you can say, okay, I had a list of 20 things, but we did 5. Now I got a new list. But guess what? You did 5 of those things on your list. And you got a chance to tell me what you wanted, and it happened. And if everybody does that, everybody gets a little of what they want because they spoke up. And then that way we can kind of keep that whole thing going. And I got to do the same thing myself.
That's so real. Yes, sir. Man, going forward, what's one area of parenting that you want to be better at?
Going forward, man, I want to have more patience. I don't know that I always have the most patience, man. I think that when you're trying to balance everything and be a lot to a lot of people, man, sometimes you're just tired. And then when you get tired, with me, sometimes I don't be wanting to hear it. I don't mean I'm a mean guy. I'm just like, yo, I'm tired. And we've been doing this for a second. So I'm trying to work more on my patience. And I'm still trying to work more on that balance, that work-life balance thing, where I also keep myself in the mix of that. So I'm not just doing for everybody else.
Man, I'm right there with you, man. You sound more like me.
Yeah.
That patience is, woo. Man, we ain't even gonna get on that topic right now.
Yo, the patience thing is real, though. It's real.
Seriously, man. It's a day-by-day thing. Just trying to get better today, more better than what I was yesterday.
Facts.
Seriously. Got a couple more questions for you. Which TV dad are you most like, and which is your favorite? Or movie, TV or movie dads are you most like, and which is your favorite?
Man. Which TV dad am I most like? What's crazy is I'm actually drawing a blank on like a lot of the TV dads, and all the TV dads in my mind are like from the 80s. Man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a little bit different from that. So I'm going to go ahead and say the New Wonder Years. So the New Wonder Years, like the dad, he was like an artist, he played jazz or whatever. So he had his thing. He loved his kids. And he was trying to balance what was going on in the real world, but trying to give his kids space to be able to be kids. You know what I'm saying? And, he was still a little cocky, and he still felt like he was kind of fly. So I think that that's probably, the kind of dad that I am, you know what I'm saying? Except for I try to do a little bit more fun stuff. And I'm a little bit more adventure dad. Like, yo, let's let's go racing. You know what I'm saying? Let's jump off this cliff right quick. You know, I can be that dad too, you know.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And which one would you say is like your favorite? You know, one of those TV dads that you like kind of looked up to growing up.
You know, I'm gonna say that growing up, you know, I really looked at I really liked Cosby Show dad, you know what I'm saying? Just because I liked how that family worked. It felt like it was safe and everybody, you know, was understanding, you know, but at the same time, they were no joke. They wouldn't let you just get away with everything. But to me, it felt like it was all about love. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, we do what we do because we love you, but we're not going to let you be mediocre, or you're not going to just do whatever you want to do because we the parents. And, you know, I always respected that.
That's real. Love that, man. Love that. All right, last question right here. If you could sit with the 18-year-old version of Rob, knowing everything that you know right now, and you could sit and talk just how you and I are doing right now, and you could give that young man one piece of advice going forward, what would you say to him?
I would say live. Like, live, man, enjoy it. Like at 18, you about to leave Philly, you about to go to FAMU, you about to go to a whole new place, enjoy that. And as much as you love where you are, look for that new adventure and embrace what's different, have a good time. And I did that, but I think sometimes we could always be looking ahead at what's the next thing, or when I get my thing off the ground, or when I make this transition. But just enjoy every phase of it, man. And it don't matter if something doesn't work out for you, it ain't work out for a reason. So once you accept that it didn't work out, whatever that is, the relationship, the opportunity, the whatever, again, enjoy where you at. Because once you do that, the new thing is gonna appear. And you're gonna love it. And you're gonna say, man, remember when I crashed and burned? But then we went to the club and had the best party ever. And then, you know, and that's what makes life worth living.
That's real. Man, I love that. That's some advice for all of us out there, man.
Yeah.
Live in the moment.
Yes,
Live
sir.
and appreciate. You know, I think at times we take life for granted. You know, we always think that we're gonna wake up tomorrow. You know, we look at life in that way. We think, oh, I'll be here next week, I'll get this done, I'll call this person, I'll do this, and we're just not promised that, you know. And I don't think we think of life in that way enough, you know, to just really know that, bro, I really might not be here tomorrow. You know, I might not see my wife again next time I open my eyes, you know, or when she leaves the house or I leave the house, or I might not see my kids again after they leave for school, you know. So just trying to stay in that mindset, man, that's definitely important. Big.
100%, man. I remember I was doing a show one time and I was talking to a guy and he was a writer, and he's telling me, he says, you know, in 10 years, I'm not going to be thinking about this episode or, you know, how it turned out. What I am going to be thinking about is the fact that we kicking it right here, having a drink, talking slick, whatever, in New York. And, you know, it's just the moments that makes it all worth it. You know what I'm saying? Because that just tells you what kind of experience you have in. So Gainesville could be the greatest thing ever if you let it be.
Yeah, straight
You
up.
know, or not.
Straight up. That's
Yeah.
real. That's real, man. Well, Mr. Rob, man, listen, this right here was definitely an honor. Man, just to have the opportunity to sit in and kick it with you, man. This is everything, man. You know, I definitely learned something. I always say, Dad, can we talk is something that I put out for everyone else to hear, but Dad, can we talk is for me. I need stuff like this. I'm always trying to learn as a dad. I don't know it all. Um, I was saying I went to a parent conference. I had to speak at a parent conference last Friday, and I was telling them, you know, last year I won Father of the Year for my county, for the state of Florida, and for the Southeastern region. And I'm like, people probably look at me like, oh, he knows it all. He had Father of the Year. And I'm like, I don't know. I still don't even know probably 10% of what I need. I'm still learning. I'm learning by the day, and don't look to me for all the answers, because I'm gonna be looking right back at you, asking you 10 more questions than what you
Right.
got for me. So yeah, man, just always trying to learn. And I learned a lot in this one, man. You gave me some nuggets, some things that I'm gonna definitely try to put into my repertoire, and just keep it pushing, man. I'm trying to just get better every day.
Hey, man, that's what's up, man. And listen, props to you. Like the fact that you created this so that way you could help other people, but also so you can help yourself too. And that's that perfect storm of, I got this thing for the world, but because of that, it's also feeding me too. And then we get a chance to have like community, and that energy that you put out there, it's that boomerang, man. It keeps coming back to you. And look, it's no rule book to this. And it's like the NFL, but man, we all play hurt. We all a little nicked up in this fatherhood game. You know what I'm saying? But it's love, though. It's love.
That's real. That's real, man. But hey, I ain't gonna wake up. I ain't gonna put too much more time, take too much more of your time. But man, I got one more quick. So, man, my wife always is talking about trying to get into film, movies, or looking for places where she can like just audition and stuff. Like, what advice would you give her if she wanted to really go into that industry?
So if you really want to break out into the business, so what you want to do is you want to be able to, as an actor, if that's what you want to do, first thing that you want to do is act. So wherever you are locally, whether it is at somebody's school, the church play, or whatever it is, you want to do some stuff where you can act. If there's a place where they offer acting classes that you can take, or a community theater, do that to start honing your talent. Okay. So that's the first thing. So that way, when you get an opportunity to do something, you're ready. Then they have a film commission. So if you're in Florida, go to the Florida Film Commission, Florida Film Office, and they'll give you a list of all the places, all the shows that's coming to town, and you look for the casting director. And then you see if you can set up a meeting with the casting director and show them your talent. Put together a reel of your scenes of the stuff that you did in these projects, and send them and see if you can get an audition. Or go to that Florida film office and ask for a list of talent agents, and then go and try to get you a talent agent that represents you, right? And so if they ask you to spend a whole bunch of money, like give me $5,000 for headshots or whatever, that's a scam. Don't do that. But if you get you somebody that's reputable, and the film office can tell you if they're reputable, then you go and get them, and they'll send you on the auditions. But what it starts with is, do you have stuff to show on tape or on video that you that person? And if you don't, you create that. And if you don't know if you got it, go take some classes. Or if you don't got any of that, just write it and shoot it yourself. But get something to show what kind of talent that you have, so that way we believe you. And so when you get a chance to get your audition, you'll be ready for it.
Man, that's game. That is game. So for my wife and for anybody else that needed that information, you heard it from the man himself. So, man, listen, man, I appreciate you. Man, keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you, man, and keep on putting on for us, man.
I'm gonna definitely do that, my man. Hey, look, thanks for having me, and keep shining.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's Dad Can We Talk, episode 109, and we out of here.